Very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Raja Muzaffar Sahab, Farooq Siddiqui Sahab, Altaf Qadri Sahab, and my beloved Mujib Qazi. It's a great honor for me to address this august meeting of Americans who enjoy the freedom and liberty like breathing air, enjoying the fruit of life as bestowed upon us by nature. Our gathering here today is to ponder on the oppressed people of Kashmir who are out to breathe the same air and enjoy the same nature as people of the free world with liberty and justice for all. U.S. President Dwight Eisenhower, while addressing the nation when he was leaving the White House, used the phrase of military-industrial complex and urged new leadership to strike a balance in civilian and military priorities. This was an admission of presence of military-industrial complex at the highest level of American political hierarchy. For next several decades, the military-industrial complex led the public policy vision prevail with death and destruction not only by U.S. but throughout the world. The Vietnam and Korean Wars, the Middle Eastern conquest, ending in more than 2 million deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan, sanctions on Iran, and most recently the Ukraine war, which has dire implications on oil and gas and is leading into a worldwide recession next year. The military-industrial complex plays into its own dynamics in third world countries as well. In case of Pakistan and India, the conflict of Kashmir is used to promote institutional interest of the mini military-industrial complex, which is connected to the international complex in the West. Conflicts suits the Western world from where they can extract resources in post-colonial era. In case of Pakistan, the conflict of Kashmir is kept on front burner to address the people of to oppress the people of Pakistan through military control on economic resources. The resources which could have been spent on education, industrialization, and poverty alleviation. Resources to build Pakistan was redirected to the destruction of a neighbor on the name of disputed territory of Kashmir. Same is happening in India, while instead of addressing the object poverty, they have 800,000 of their military presence in Kashmir. The militarization of the region and arming both nations with nuclear devices are of no use for people of Kashmir. Thousands of Kashmiris and Pakistani since were used in the conflict, which became a fight for disputed territory rather than a peaceful struggle for just cause of independence. India and Pakistan showed from their behavior that they are least interested in Kashmiri people and the rights of self-determination. Both countries are interested in occupation of land rather than addressing the basic human rights of Kashmiri people. This scenario suits the war sponsors and military-industrial complex in the West. Peace in the region does not suit their prospects on bottom line of manufacturers of military equipments. Both Pakistan and India have used Kashmir to blackmail the whole world as nuclear flashpoint and the most dangerous conflict zone in the world. If any of these two countries are so much interested in a solution to the conflict, then why they do not let the people of Kashmir decide as what they really want? Kashmir is not just a piece of land or a disputed territory. Kashmir is a proud nation with rich history, cultural heritage, and most of all, the willingness to fight for their nationhood. Let the people of Kashmir decide as how do they want to run their state independent of all foreign pressure and intimidation. Being a Pakistani American and a peace and justice activist, I wish for disarmament of both sides of Kashmir. I demand both countries to let Kashmiri nation decide to decide the future course. This is not a Pakistani issue. This is not an Indian issue. This is a Kashmiri issue. And no third country should be interfering in internal matter of Kashmir. The territorial and national sovereignty of Kashmir must be observed and respected. Let's give peace a chance in Kashmir which is nothing but a model of heaven on earth, which has long history of diversity and cultural richness in the world. The land of Sufi saints and saffron-clad pundits who like to breathe the same air as people in free world breathe. At the end, I will repeat the words of wisdom from Martin Luther King Jr. Peace is not merely absence of war, but is presence of justice. I'm again thankful to the organizers and Kashmir World Council for giving me this great opportunity to speak at this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sayyid Fayaz Hussain Saab, for your kind words. Our next speaker is Aftab Siddiqui Saab, who is the president of Dallas Peace and Justice. He is a very well-known activist in our community, has taught in the university as a professor, an intellectual, a scholarly personality. We are very grateful for him giving us the honor of being in our seminar today. Aftab Siddiqui Saab.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak to this August gathering, and I appreciate the organizing of this event. Okay, so much has been said about Ukraine and Kashmir that I would not like to repeat all that. We all know what's going on Ukraine and how the West has stood up to help the Ukrainian, and rightly so. But unfortunately, we do know that nobody else has really done anything about the Kashmiri people. Okay, while the entire West has stood by Ukraine, no country has helped the Kashmiri people. One difference is that Ukraine is a part of Europe, and NATO sees an opportunity to weaken Russia without directly attacking Russia. Ukrainians are fighting the war for themselves, but more so for US and UK. The media hypes the plight of Ukrainians because military-industrial complex and big corporations make money out of these forever wars. Kashmir is not a part of Europe, and it is too far away from US and Europe. Additionally, India and Pakistan are not strong enough to pose a threat to the interests of US and Europe, and thank God for that. Otherwise, you can be sure that US and the West will be really doing something about this issue, trying to make mischief for both the countries. And of course, China is a rising power, but US is priming up Taiwan to fight against China, unfortunately. I think the way forward for Kashmiris is to form a united front for an independent Kashmir, a country which is inclusive of all population segments. A pluralistic society is the best option forward. Independence, an independent Kashmir does not necessarily mean like a sovereign state like India or Pakistan in the foreseeable future, but a demilitarized state with open borders for trade and traveling, and open traveling within the state. The families have been divided for the last 75 years. It is time for India and Pakistan and China to let the families meet each other and unite. I envision an Asian Switzerland, as Beverly very well said. A gradual opening of borders and free trade in the entire state. And of course, how do we start? Of course, number one is the Kashmiris have to really come together, all the segments of the population, and the diaspora and the people who are still living in Kashmir, and start working with India and Pakistan and keep China in the loop Later, China can hopefully open its administered part of Kashmir, hopefully. But we talk about in years and decades. It's not going to be simple, it's not going to be easy, but that is the way forward, I believe. And an autonomous state managed by Kashmiri people is the right thing, is the right resolution for the Kashmir issue. And of course, why would Pakistan, India, and China be interested in talking to the Kashmiris? Right now, look what's going on in Pakistan, the floods. Pakistan and India and Kashmir are ground zero for the climate change. All these countries have to really understand that and try to do something about that. And if they are serious to really fight against the climate crisis, then the best way forward is to really form a peaceful, have a peaceful resolution of the Kashmir issues.
Thank you.
And once again, I would really like to thank the organizers and everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Aftab Sahab, for your kind words. Today we have among us our brother from Pandit community from Kashmir, Veer Kashmiri, who is going to share his words of wisdom with us.
Thank you very much. Let's first applaud Kashmir Global Council for generating. Let us applaud Kashmir Global Council for generating the beginning of a new era of hope, harmony, love, and prosperity. Kashmir forever. Now, actually, what I wanted to say, or what I will actually be endorsing, has been said by Sayyid Fiaz Hassan Sahab. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say. And Mr. Aftab Siddiqui. So basically what I am saying is an endorsement of what they have said. Let me just quickly read out. Kashmir, Ukraine, how similar they are, or how different are they? I will not talk of history. You all know that. I will talk a few facts and what is derived through common sense. Yes, common sense, because that is where the sense is to both of these situations. I will also not be mentioning religion. That does not apply. Interestingly, Crimea is what part of Kashmir? Now, do both of these plans, Ukraine and Kashmir, both of these places, Ukraine and Kashmir, match up politically or otherwise? Well, you can always deduct your own possibilities, similarities amongst all troubled places around the world. Let us get two things out of what I will say. One, making Article 370, inoperative, a truly bad move from whichever angle, whichever side do we look at. The other is religion. Not only which we should not be analyzing or talking about the situation from, any angle. Leadership, one has to be very watchful about. Zelensky is one good example of that. Actually, a bad example. With Russia on your border, you want to join NATO in a war treaty against Russia. You lose Crimea, Donbass, etc., and control over your nuclear plant. And again, you get the common man suffer. Yes, the common man suffers. It is very easy to visualize Kashmir as Switzerland. what makes Switzerland is worth pondering and striving. Ukraine must neutralize. I think I need my glasses. I'll wind it up soon. Ukraine must neutralize itself to be a good neighbor, which guarantees its safety and independence. Living in Texas, we know, as per its constitution, Texas can secede from mainland USA. But should it? Would it? To stop Kashmir from bleeding, it needs a strong social economic system with an amicable political structure. Would you want to displace the large majority of Hindko-speaking Pahari people from the Azad Kashmir or settled in so-called Azad Kashmir by Ayub Khan? Are they Kashmiris now? I say, why not? It is so very important to have that helping hand strong and trustworthy, and all options lead to an amicable political structure. And this may be a good starting point for Kashmir. Reenactment of Article 370, a strong social economic system with an amicable political structure. To the glory of people of Kashmir, all people, and let there be peace and harmony in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it was an absolute honor having you among us. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. And we hope and look forward to working together going forward. We are down to the last two speakers, and before we open the floor for questions and answers, inshallah. So I would like to request Brother Qasim Khokar, who serves on the board at KGC, is as an engineer by trade, and so he has been working for City of New York for as long as I know him. Qasim Khokar, we need mic, please.
Great. It is a nice gathering, and the topic is very important actually. When we look at Kashmir and Ukraine, I would say for last 70 years, with all those economic and technological advances, when we compare these two events, we see we are still in the old ages. In 1947, Pakistani forces used trucks, and Indian forces used small Cessna planes and small rifles to invade in Kashmir. And in 2022, Russian forces use tanks and big armed cars with all electronics and surveillances. But the other side of the story is mothers are the same, sisters are the same. Suffering is the same for all those people. And I would like international community to end this suffering. I like United Nations to stand up, wake up. Since United Nations was born, Kashmiris are suffering. You can claim all those solutions to different problems, but your first problem was Kashmir. And we are the people of Kashmir. We want justice. We want all those foreign forces out of Kashmir. We want Pakistani people and their forces out of Kashmir, Indian people and their forces out of Kashmir, Chinese forces out of Kashmir. We don't want to deal with them. We want to stay separate. We are very peace-loving people, and we like our own country, so we can contribute to the international community. in education, in science, in computer science. We want to go to the moon too. We want to explore the sky. So give us our chance, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us down to Barrister Tosif Saab, who is a writer, an author, a thinker, and an attorney. Tosif Saab.
Yeah, thank you very much, Raja Saab and Farooq Saab, for coming down here. We all know the history of Kashmir, how it came was a byproduct of the partition of India and Pakistan into two regions, Muslim majority regions became Pakistan, except Kashmir, which was a Muslim majority state, was denied its freedom. And to this day, as various speakers have pointed out, hundreds of thousands of Kashmiris have been killed, hundreds wounded, women raped, children slaughtered, the houses demolished, the whole social structure wiped out. Why? Because they wanted liberty, they wanted freedom to live their own lives, and to practice liberty and freedom just like Americans did when they fought against the British, So this is the tragedy of Kashmir, and this is the Kashmir crisis in a nutshell, The people want freedom, and the human rights, the basic inalienable rights for life and liberty are being violated as we speak today. So I would urge all those here, present here, to do their utmost to highlight these violations of human rights and denial of freedom. Write to the congressmen, write to the representatives, speak to the media, and spread the word. That's all the Kashmiris want, freedom. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tosif Saab. Thank you very much. We have Robert Checks. He wants to speak a few words. Robert, Mike.
Thank you. I've enjoyed listening. I want to say a special thanks to my friend Syed Hassan. I think he had a very insightful discussion of Ukraine with respect to the military-industrial complex. I think it's the hidden hand. It's a motive, profit. Well, let me not digress too much into Ukraine, but to Kashmir, let me go back to 1947 and the United Nations, and to a few years later. What year was the Universal Declaration adopted? I don't remember. 48? At any rate, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a guide for the future of the planet. If we are as intelligent a species as we think we are, we should get on board with this right away, because we're facing very challenging times with the climate, and we need to work together. The Ukraine situation is distracting us. Our president, Mr. Biden, went to Saudi Arabia, forgiving, I guess, the leader of that country for assassinating a journalist, and begging him to increase the production of oil. Now, this is no way to combat climate change. So I think that we need to rely on the United Nations, give them credence, give them support. It's a dangerous world out there, but we have to stick to those values that everybody recognizes as applicable to all humans. And the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights seems to be the best compilation so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. We have a question from Asil Khansab, who is back there.
My question is, as we have observed, the Kashmiris are still suffering, and we have seen many protests, demonstrations, but the question is, how long is it going to take? Is there any solution? What are our strategies? Any panelists can help us, please.
Kashmiris worked with the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva and in New York. And there were reports which our activists back and home in Kashmir, they devised a way of getting the information, and ultimately the structure of violence was a book they compiled, and it was given to the United Nations Human Rights Council sessions, right? And after 2 or 3 years of those reports were studied by the United Nations Human Rights Council, and they issued in 2018 their first ever report on human rights abuses in Kashmir. Those abuses were about 14 clauses of them were perpetuated by the Indian military under their control of Kashmir. And 4 clauses were those which were perpetuated by the Pakistani administration. So what happened then when on 2018, 16th of July, I remember, the United Nations Human Rights Council also devised a method to how to proceed further for the commission of inquiry. And if the commission, because there is a mechanism the United Nations works, you just can't go there and knock their door and say that, hey, come on, there is something going on here, and they will straight away come. That doesn't happen. So the mechanism is set there. What happened is these were the reports only. The United Nations wanted actually to go and talk to the victims and talk to those governments themselves to find whether these reports are right or wrong. So they appealed both India as well as Pakistan. This is an answer to you also. They appealed both India and Pakistan that you should allow us to get into so that we can verify these reports which have been, these were very credible reports from all over Reuters and everything. India rejected within two hours of report was issued by the United Nations Human Rights Council. Within 2 hours it rejected completely and said that we are not going to allow any official of the United Nations to come and verify these reports. I would have expected that Pakistan, being a friendly country for Kashmiris as it claims, that they would allow this officials of United Nations to their country, their part of the Kashmir, and say that, okay, you go ahead with it. A report could have come that India refused it, but Pakistan allowed it, and a commission of inquiry could have started against India. But unfortunately, these two countries work together when it comes to resolving of Kashmir. They don't want to resolve the Kashmir issue. Let me explain to you, as you really said, you said yourself about the war machinery of Ukraine, what is happening here. Exactly the same thing is happening. Pakistan right now needs money for their people who are flooded. What they are spending, United States, yesterday's news that $450 million have been given to Pakistan for refurbishment of F-16s. I don't know if you know that. So this is a war machinery going on at the cost of the sufferings of the people. And people like this gentleman here, they do not understand it. That is why we are suffering here.
We want to thank our delegates who came all the way from Canada, from New York, New Jersey, far-fetched places. We want to thank you all. I just want to say this in concluding. For the last 75 years, people of Kashmir have suffered a lot. They have sacrificed over 100,000 lives. They have been used as proxy for many people or the organization of interest. We have been very candid and very open discussing all those and presented facts to you for you to decide. Facts and figures are available. No one can deny them. The reality remains that 24 million people are suffering. The misery is, and atrocities are mounting. Oppression, repression, suppression is mounting. We just cannot sit back and watch it as if this is not my problem. We should not be one of those people who think that as long as it's not impacting my family directly, I'm not going to talk about it. That's not what humanity is about. As a human being, we need to stand up. We need to raise our voices. We are peaceful people. We don't have ammunition. We don't have arsenal. We don't have a might and capability to fight these three mighty powers. All we can do is to raise voices as one united human beings. That's all, and thank you very much. Let's break for dinner.